What's up, everybody? It's Agasicles Stamas back, along with Osiris Prime for another episode of E2KGn30, the fastest gaming news show in town. Prime, how you doing tonight?
I'm okay. I'm fighting some allergies, but otherwise I'm good.
Do you neti pot, dude?
No, I'm good. I took some meds. I should be good.
Okay. There's nothing like a nice, good neti pot, man. It's a bit of an adjustment to make. It's a bit of an acquired taste, but
oh yeah.
So let me just turn on the Zoinks lamp here. I meant to have this actually within the camera view.
Nice.
With the white with the studio lights, you can't really see it. So I don't know. Is that coming through? No, you can't tell that that's purple, can you?
No, it just looks like white, like a regular light.
I'll have to set that up for another podcast. These are my. Can I get it to turn off? So these are my new gaming lights.
Oh, nice.
Well, I guess with my hand there, you can tell that it's blue.
Yeah.
And if you push and hold it, it'll actually start cycling colors. So it's.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Now it's white, and now it's yellow, green. So I've recently become enamored with actually playing with my lights off, which I know lots of gamers do, but I've just never been a lights off gaming kind of guy. But I bought those lamps to help out with that, so I can actually see my keyboard. My keyboard's not backlit. But anyway, let's get on with the gaming news.
Let's go.
All right. So I would say it has been kind of a slow gaming news week. So don't necessarily be prepared to be blown away by any of the news stories that we have. I don't know that there's anything that remarkable here. So let's start off with some sales news, which I realized as I put this in the rundown that we don't do a lot of sales news because I don't know why. But I guess it's the holiday season. There haven't been a lot of like one-off sales. There have just been like super big sales, and we kind of covered those during the holiday season. And a lot of them happened while we were on hiatus. So, however, if you are into Fire Emblem, and I am, right now Fire Emblem is 33% off for the Fire Emblem Warriors Standard Edition on Amazon, and that's for the Switch, which is why I put it in the rundown, because everybody likes a sale on a Switch game. So Standard Edition is 27% off, and the Special Edition is 33% off. So that is over on Amazon, and I caught that over on GameIdealist.com. But Prime, you have a story not about spending money, but about giving money away.
Yes.
At a much larger scale.
Oh yeah, yeah. But I was just gonna say it's kind of nice that you don't see a lot of sales on Nintendo in the first place, so it's good that that they're out there. I actually saw another one earlier today, and I was trying to find it, but now I can't. It was something else on Amazon, but it was another Nintendo one. I'll try to look for it while we're going around here tonight. But yes, the developers of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, and that is PUBG Corp. They had announced today, or actually not today, it was a couple days ago, Tuesday, that they're going to be donating $2 million over the coming year. And they broke down at least like $1 million here. And I'll kind of go through it. So they had, at the end of the year last year, in 2017, they had donated $100,000 to Twitch's PUBG Winter Charity Invitational. So they done that right at the end of the year. But then this year, they're going to do $300,000 towards PUBG's Extra Life Charity Marathon, which is going to be held here in a few days, January 29th through February 2nd, in support of Children's Miracle Network Hospitals. And then if you don't know what Extra Life is, they're a charity organization that's been around for, 10 years now. And it evolves around gaming marathons, basically. So, they'll pick a game here in PUBG, obviously, and they'll just, do like usually, well, I shouldn't say usually, but usually it's like 24, it's sometimes 24 hours, sometimes 48 hours, but they'll have, cycle people in and out during the streams while they're doing that. So, and then that is going to raise funds for sick and injured kids. Excuse me. And then they're also going to give some money to the PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds LAN tournaments being held with Gamers Outreach at Gamers for Giving, and then that's April 28th through the 29th. And what that will be, and what Gamers Outreach does, is they provide equipment and software, and, technical stuff to hospitals, with children coping with different ailments or treatments while they're getting, treated for different, ailments and, cancer and stuff like that, I'm assuming. And this is a Michigan-based event, so that's kind of a little bit more specific that they're giving out a Michigan thing. And then, excuse me, and then another $1 million they'll go toward charities throughout the rest of the year, which they didn't just kind of generalize that. They didn't specify anything. So I thought that was really cool. It was a pretty neat story that I saw out there. Something more, it wasn't doom and gloom like I'm opted to do. So I wanted to give something that's a little bit more, upbeat and, out there. And then just real quick, kind of coinciding with that, there at the end of the article, they're saying, and this is from IGN, they were just kind of going through, how I think it was last week, a couple weeks ago, they PUBG on the Xbox hit 3 million players. And then just today, actually, they hit 4 million total players, and that they're doing a special promotion that if you buy, as long as you buy the game before January 31st at 12 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, they are going to give a bonus to players for 30,000 free battle points, which is my little title there. That's why I put 30,000 battle points. And that's a pretty big deal because, at least for me, the points don't come, flooding in like I'd like to. So I'm usually around, I'll say, like, if I do like a PlayStation or a play session for a few hours or so, 3-4 hours, I can get maybe like 1,000, 1,500 or so. So 30,000 is a pretty big deal, and I do decent. Like I don't win every time. I've only won a few times, being like the top player. So yeah, it's a pretty big deal that they're giving out 30,000 battle points. So I thought that was cool too. Some a little bonus for players out there. And once again, this is a game preview on the Xbox One. So it's nice that they're doing that, kind of free bonus stuff like that. So it's pretty cool.
Very cool. Very cool. So next story in the rundown is the PC Gamer Weekender is gathering the greatest in strategy gaming under one roof. So we found this by way of Games Radar. So PC Gamer, one of the oldest and most venerable publication houses, publication shops in the biz, who got their start off in the UK in paper and now continue to publish online. They actually still continue to put the magazine out in digital and paper form, but they are hosting some type of gamer weekend over in the UK, and it's a big strategy fest weekend. So I just thought this was interesting because it's kind of a very quick hit list of kind of top strategy games on the PC of all time, which has kind of been a currently running topic. At least for me and for us in discussion of what we've been playing in our playlist. So they will be hosting matches of Company of Heroes 2, Endless Space 2, two flavors of Warhammer, which I thought was really interesting. Total War Warhammer. The Warhammer series just recently came into the Total War franchise, which is very interesting because most of the Total War franchise has been relatively historically based on at least based on events and factions and conflicts in reality, different periods of feudalism and imperialism. This was the first kind of instance of a fictional world being brought in and put into the Total War engine. So Total War Warhammer, but then you also get Warhammer 40,000, Dawn of War 3, a franchise, maybe not totally the franchise, but just an engine and game design that I've been a big fan of. I was definitely in hardcore on the first Warhammer 40K. I didn't necessarily stick with the franchise, but I definitely played the first one for an extended period of time through my backlog. They'll also be playing the Rise of the Tomb Kings DLC, which is the most recent expansion for Total War Warhammer 2. That's about it. That's about all the games that they'll be playing. They're going to be hosting it over a weekend over in Olympia, or at the Olympia in London in the UK. They will be doing both those. They'll be doing those game sessions, as well as publishers may be revealing new information on game releases and games. Some notable speakers. It doesn't necessarily say in the article exactly who they are. What I thought was most incredible about this is that supposedly the tickets are only like £13, which should be like $26 to $30. So that's pretty impressive. And PC Gamer has a code to get discounts off of the ticket price. So one of the reasons this jumped out at me, it seems to be one of the very few fan-oriented things that I've seen with ticket sales prices this low. So that's pretty amazing, and in my mind, is kind of core to the ethos of PCGamer. So rock on. I hope they have a great landing weekend, and I'm also hoping that whatever news and reveals come out at that event make their way into the gamer journalist media, so that we all get that information.
Yeah, they mentioned kind of a few games here that, like you were saying. Have you ever played Endless Space? I don't recognize that one.
I have not. It was on my wish list on Steam. It's a Steam game that's been out for a while, so I want to say it's. I mean, I thought it was a little bit like The Sims in space. Like I thought it was like a city planning thing, kind of set in the future. But I'll have to look at it again. Maybe it's a little more, RTS like.
Okay, yeah, I had never heard of that. So most of the other ones, or all the other ones, I've heard of. So
right,
weird.
Right. Now I'm trying to think. I don't think that any of those games are on Xbox, but it shouldn't matter because Xbox released and announced their lineup for Games for Gold for February. So Prime, why don't you run us through that?
All right, yeah, we got some good ones here. So up on the Xbox One, they'll start with here, and this is the first one here is from February 1st to the 28th. So all month, it's Shadow Warrior, which is a first-person shooter. And this is actually got this one from IGN, and IGN gave it an 8.6, so it's pretty decent. I think I heard of it, but I don't remember like looking into it, for details. So I'm not sure. I was kind of watching the video here on the in the article. It looks interesting, so we'll see. There's guns, not only guns, but it looks like you can use swords and like melee weapons and stuff. So it's pretty cool. And then from February 16th to March 15th, you have Assassin's Creed Chronicles India, which is the mostly like 2D, kind of, I guess, 2.5D. There's still, some small 3D elements that you can kind of go back into the background and stuff like that, or the foreground.
So is this kind of a Lara Croft, like, whatever those, like three-quarter isometric view ones were?
It kind of seems like that, but it's more side-scrolling than kind of going like isometric.
Okay.
So, but it's, there's no, big sprawling cities and stuff like that. It's just kind of scrolling.
It's not the same design as the core franchise. It's like a smaller kind of arcade level game.
Yeah, and these I think there was a China and then I think a Russian one, I believe, the same ilk. So yeah, and they're all pretty much just like side scrolling kind of pseudo 3D.
Right.
So
I just want to say, Ubisoft, perfect kind of game to put on the Switch. Maybe.
Yeah.
Nice thing to take on the go with you.
That'd be actually pretty nice. And then for Xbox 360, which of course anything released for these the free games is backwards compatible on the Xbox One. You got Split Second, February 1st to the 15th, which I remember I played the demo of, and I really did enjoy it. But at the time, I was just kind of into more like shooters and stuff. I just started getting into shooters, so that kind of fell on the wayside. I know that came out around the same time as there's another racing game,
Blur. So yeah, I actually have that game as well as Blur on PlayStation 3. I bought the retail versions. And yeah, it's one of these kind of crazy racing games that
and more arcadey, right?
A little more, yeah, yes, but the interesting hook to Split Second is that you can pull off I forget what they're called, but you can pull off trigger events that cause explosions on the track ahead of you, and target them to go off in or near competitors that are ahead of you if you earn enough, whatever, kudos or whatever their equivalent is. And when you do that, it can sometimes actually change the course of the track. So, so you may take an opponent down and be able to move up a position, but also the next time you come around on the track, the pattern might be different. It was a neat game. I want to say it scored pretty much as well as Blur, but in practical play, Blur to me does a really great job of allowing for scenarios where final places at the end of the race can radically change in like the last 500 yards of the race, right? Based on what power-ups people have. So many a time I've won a race in Blur, but I was in like 4th or 5th position coming into the last lap, right? But I triggered like the perfect chain of power-ups and at the last minute was able to pull ahead. You get a little bit of that in Split Second, but the end race, the end game isn't quite as taut with tension in terms of what people can pull off.
Okay, so it's more like you said, it's more environmental stuff.
Yeah.
Power ups.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And then from February 16th through the 28th, you have Crazy Taxi. And that was an old was a Dreamcast, I believe, game from Sega that they I think updated a little bit. So yeah, so there's some four pretty decent games, at least from my standpoint. Like I said, I definitely want to get and play Split Second and the Assassin's Creed, just because I never played any of those ones, just the core games. So that should be cool. And then I'll check out Shadow War eventually, and Crazy Taxi I loved, so I'll play that one for sure.
Yeah, I still may not check out Shadow War. I don't know what it is. That game has come around either like for sale really cheaply or on like other. Sorry, of course, just as my mic is unmuted is when all the tweets and stuff go off. But it's come up on my radar and been available for me to pick up either free or on the cheap a few times before. Jesus, sorry. And I keep passing on it, so I'm going to pass on it this time again, just because I don't even feel like being bothered going back and researching why I keep passing on it. I'm probably going to pass up on Assassin's Creed Chronicles as well, just because I'm still playing Assassin's Creed Origins, and I can't see off-tracking myself to check out a less than full-blown version of Assassin's Creed. And I have Split Second on PlayStation 3, so this will be a month on Xbox Games with Gold that I'll be kind of laying back on what they have to offer. Decent offerings, though, for other people who haven't played those games, so it should be...
You can always put it in your queue, too, though. I mean, you don't have to download it.
No, I don't
do that. You don't do that?
No.
All right.
Because it just results in a bunch of clutter, right? Then what's in there for me when I have to restore a system and what I have to choose from to download, right? It's just cluttered with stuff that I'm never going to play. So
right.
I did that for a little while, but like the end result is I have this list of games, like particularly on my PlayStation 4, that still present themselves in the view as downloadable, but I know I'm never going to download them, right? So they just get in the way of me seeing the stuff that I do actually want to download. Yeah. So your next and last story for you officially makes this the most Xbox One-oriented E2KGn30 episode that I think we have done since our debut.
I know, in a long time, actually. Right. All right, yeah. So the next one is, excuse me, a little bit of Xbox Game Pass news here. Some pretty big news, I think. So it was announced that Microsoft Studio games going forward, and starting with Sea of Thieves, is going to be put on Xbox Game Pass day and date of the actual game release, the release date. So when it comes out to stores and digital download and stuff like that, it's going to be on Xbox Game Pass. If you don't know what Xbox Game Pass is, it's the Netflix-like subscription service that they started. I think it was last year. Yeah, I think it was before E3, maybe after E3. Can't remember exactly, but and it's a little different than you don't stream stuff kind of like PlayStation. I think now is their subscription service. Can't remember, but you actually download the games in Game Pass, so it's not a streaming service. You just download it and then you can play it. So, and its normal price is $10 a month, so it comes out to about $120 or so a year. They will also offer a $60 6-month subscription cards going forward, and I think that's starting on March 20th of this year. So you'll
is this their move? I'm sorry. I'll let you finish. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say. So you'll get game, obviously, like I said, Sea of Thieves, and then you'll get State of Decay and Crackdown 3 when they come out sometime this year, and then they also announced obviously their future titles for Halo and Forza and Gears of War. Anything basically that's branded Microsoft Studios is going to jump on this service. And it was clarified today, I think it was today, maybe yesterday, from Aaron Greenberg that so normally the games kind of come and go on this service, kind of like on Netflix, stuff stays for a few months or whatever. But supposedly Microsoft Studio games, they're just going to stay on this service, so they're going to be there all the time. So I think
that makes sense, because the reason those things come and go, both on Netflix and on Game Pass, is because when the owner of the rights issues that license is perishable. It only lasts for a certain amount of time. They don't just sell them a license in perpetuity.
Right. Yep.
So, not necessarily, as a neener thing to Xbox, but just because if you license things in perpetuity, then you lose track of your IP, and when it's out there, it's at a minimum it's put in there just to trigger the contracts guys to revisit it, and frequently it lapses, and maybe there's an associated charge with renewing it or something like that. So that makes sense, and it makes sense that the Microsoft stuff would stay on there because it's Microsoft's license. So why would they impugn themselves by forcing themselves to take it down?
Yeah. And I brought that up because there was a lot of fervor online. It was like, well, are they going to stay on there? Because everything's always coming and going. So just in case that question came up.
Right. My question for you is this their move to attempt to go digital only? Is this their move to move the Microbox to move
the Micronauts?
That would Microbox would actually be a pretty cool name.
That could be the portable. You just gave him a free one.
There we go. Phil Spencer, let's get on with that. Right. I've been on you guys about doing a portable Xbox forever. But do you think this is their move to say, from now on, you're not going to? From now on, we are the AWS. This is your games are in Microsoft Azure now. This is how you procure all your games, and if for some reason you don't have bandwidth or whatever, there's this other model. But at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to go to GameStop or Target or wherever or retail outlets to buy physical copies of these games anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like I know we talked about it. I think actually just this past Tuesday, maybe it was last week. I can't remember exactly, but how they're trying to look to the future and try to position themselves like that. And if you think about it, with this, since it's a download, I mean, maybe you can get just some eventually that you can they start producing some kind of cheaper boxes that you can just download games to, maybe even to PC. And I think you can do this on a PC too. I forgot. I was gonna look that up and I forgot. Basically part of their Play Anywhere initiative. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely a good future move. And it actually did get me thinking. I was like, oh, hey, I don't have this right now, but I mean, it's a possibility now because you get these games, they're going to be on there. It's $120 a year. That's not too bad, not a big big deal. But I think the big thing here is if they can get at least one or two third parties, and then I'd probably really jump on this to get them to start doing that too. Even if those did kind of come and go, that's fine. But yeah, I think it's a really big deal.
Now with the stuff that comes and goes, is that just the stuff that you're just getting for your subscription price, right? Because you can actually buy the games, right, through Game Pass so that you permanently own them as part of your library, right?
Right, correct, yeah. And I think there's I can't remember, I think it's like a 10 or 20% discount when you do it through the Game Pass. So yeah, you can do that also. Yeah, so once you buy it, it's yours. So
okay, so right, so the third-party stuff that comes and goes, if you just buy it outright, then it'll stay. It becomes now you've transitioned it to being a purchase from the Microsoft Store, and it will always be there in your purchased list for you to download.
Right, correct. Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, very good. So from one of the console manufacturers back to one of the big major publishers, Ubisoft, continues to want to drive everyone nuts with their pricing scheme for Rainbow Six Siege. Now, I read an article about this earlier in the week, and I tweeted it out. In that article, I can't remember what site it was on, so I apologize for not accrediting you, but I did tweet it out earlier in the week from my personal Twitter account, mentioning that, this is one of the things that could potentially keep people out. I own Rainbow Six Siege, but I've never gotten into it. Because I know that it's one of those games that I'm not just going to be able to jump in and figure out in the first hour, right? I know that it's gonna be a thing where I would need to set aside a whole afternoon to get in and figure out. In that early article, talked about the complexity of this pricing scheme and that it's very difficult for new gamers to figure out which version to get so that they can not partially so that they can be competitive, but just so that they have the stuff that they need for any maps and game types that come up in the rotation. And so even though I own it, I own the original, there's been 2, maybe 3 packs that have come out since then that have these things called operators, which are kind of like heroes in other games. And the problem is that the more heroes that come out, the further behind you are in, buying a complete up-to-date version if you're a new gamer to get started in this thing. So they have multiple versions that are sold through different channels. The worst thing about their pricing scheme is that they have what is called a starter edition, which only costs $15. Under this new structure, the starter edition is going to stay in place. The major problem with the starter edition is, however they do it, they identify that that's the version that you're on, and in the amount of XP, I'll just call it XP to simplify it. It may be called resource points or something else, but the amount of XP that you have to earn in order to have enough to buy an operator is more than if you have a different version of the game. So they punish the people who bought the $15 version by making them play longer to get to an operative. And getting to an operative, I forget, not this article, but there was this other article, but it was something like playing for a full week in order to get enough XP to buy one operator. And I think there's 20 in each, 10 to 20 in each DLC pack. So at this point, there's 20 or 40, and either the third pack is either already released or is going to release shortly. Year 3 content pack. Yes, I can't find quickly when the Year 3 content pack came out. But maybe it was the one that just released this past winter, which would make sense because this was a 2015 holiday game, I think. So 15, 16, 17, yeah, that would be the third pass that would have come out. So most of the other pricing schemes, I think, stay the same. The major change is the $40 standard edition. They're going to eliminate that one. Now there's going to be what's called a $60 advanced edition. So you get the base game and the stuff that was in the starter edition, as well as like 600 R6 credits and 10 outbreak packs. Which is basically a bunch of cosmetic items. Then you still have the $90 gold edition and the $130 complete edition. The latter of which contains the advanced edition, and I guess that's the one that you have to buy to get access to everything. Now, that's another particular point of angst that the other article I read brought up, is that that first DLC pack and that second DLC pack are 1 and 2 years old, a little longer technically, and they're still selling at the exact same price that they sold at when they first came out. So, to get fully involved in, say, Elite Dangerous with the Commander's pack, right? That's a $60 game, comparatively speaking. To get everything that you need to get started in Rainbow Six Siege, it's $130. And on top of that, bless their hearts, but I will say, from my own experience, like the Rainbow Six community is also, suffers complaints slightly, right? So bringing up any detraction or criticism about the structure of Rainbow Six Siege immediately brings a lot of heated feedback from people who are inside that filter. So I don't know. It's a tough road to hoe. At the end of the day, this results in an overall price increase for Ubisoft's products with relation to getting over the entry hump to get into Rainbow Six Siege. So, Prime, is this a game that you have ever played, or have you been consistently waved off by both the shift in game design from having a campaign single player story to being all multiplayer, or from simply this pricing structure or the competitiveness of the online space?
I did try it one weekend, I think last year, when they do those free weekends on the Xbox. I only tried it for like one night, and I was just getting destroyed. So I was like, all right, that's about enough. But I mean, what I played of it was cool, but I just couldn't get into it at the time. And now that you're talking about how this, I didn't realize this is how it was kind of split up. So obviously with the modes and the maps, excuse me, those come free. And I think I remember hearing about that like a long time ago, but I didn't realize like the operators that you had to actually unlock them and, pay credits and all this other stuff to get them, which I guess makes sense. Since I guess it's kind of like offsetting, since, they are giving all these maps and modes free to everyone. But I don't know if I don't know if I'd jump into it anytime soon. So, but yeah.
Yeah, give me 1 sec. I'm sorry, my feed is a little screwed up here for the final news article.
No problem. Oh, and I did. The Year 3 was released on December 13th of last year for Rainbow Six.
Of 2017, right?
Yeah, 2017.
Okay. I do not know why IGN is doing this to me. I don't understand why every website has progressively over the last few years made their presentation layer like the most complicated, convoluted thing possible, instead of just giving a straight linear rundown of all their news stories. So this is the final story of the night. This is our breaking news last game save that we put in the rundown frequently. So this broke about 2 hours ago. Author Miranda Sanchez over at IGN was apparently peeling through the tweets of the day and noticed one from Donald Mustard, worldwide creative director at Epic Games, who mentioned that he wants to see Fortnite on the Nintendo Switch eventually. Specifically saying, yes, I am, meaning yes, he is thinking about getting Fortnite on Switch, and says, hopefully we do that at some point. Now, the problem with that phrasing is at some point could be 10 years from now, right? However, I don't think it'll be that, right? Epic gets that it behooves them to move quickly on something like this because there's more revenue, right, by branching out into another platform. What would be curious to me, and I don't know, right, so this was the game that supposedly an admin or a developer over a weekend made a mistake and flipped a switch that enabled cross-platform play. So you said twice?
Twice, yeah. It happened again, I think, just this past weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that would be the major question, right? And I think the only game where there's cross-platform play that includes the Switch is Rocket League. Is that correct?
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So obviously that would be the most interesting factor, right? Is would they then enable cross-platform play? With the Switch and other platforms. So Fortnite is available right now on PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4. So it'd be interesting to see it branch out into this fourth platform. Obviously, there are tons of third-party titles that are what I would call AAA titles coming to the Nintendo Switch, including Wolfenstein 2, Colossus. We've got a Dark Souls remake coming now. So there's tons of games coming to the Switch that a year ago, all the naysayers would have said that game's never coming to Switch. And even, almost a year removed, there are some of us that are on the platform that are still, we see a title and we're like, I can't see how that would wind up on Switch, but they are. So whatever the secret sauce is in the dev kit that Nintendo is providing, it's doing something good. So it'll be interesting to see this come to fruition.
Yeah, the good thing about this game too, the graphics are like cartoony, so I mean, it shouldn't be too difficult. I mean, obviously, it's not going to be totally perfect like on the PC and stuff, but and it'd be interesting to see if they bring over just because there's basically two modes in this game. There's the battle royal mode, or there's the kind of I don't know what they call it, like base defense, basically, where you got to build up your base and all these zombies are coming at you and you got to defend it. So
right. Have we seen anything on Switch that's really that busy from a multiplayer perspective? I think the biggest thing we've seen is I think this Splatoon support 16 players in a match.
No, it's only I think 8 is the max,
8.
I believe.
Yeah. Right. So
that would be that'd be the most intensive as far as like stuff going on. So
great.
See, I know there's I forgot. I was looking at a group at one point, and there's like a publisher that goes on there, and he's been touting his game, which is actually a battle royale type game, and it basically kind of looks like Fortnite, where it's kind of more cartoony graphics. So I guess it could be done, I suppose, but I mean, it hasn't come out yet. He's just talking about it, so we'll see.
Very cool, very cool. Well, that's going to wrap it up for our coverage for the week. Osiris Prime, anything else that you want to add?
Just last thing I found, what was I talking about? The sale. It was actually the Switch dock is $15 off. Basically, it's $75 instead of $90 on Amazon. So if you want to jump on, if you need another Switch dock for any reason, you can go out and get one. That's it.
Very cool. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us, everybody. Join us next Tuesday night for the Enough to Keep Going core show, which will be our Gamer Experience show number 2. for the month of January. We will be running down our playlists and platforming from those discussions off to other topics that are adjacent and related. We'll be reporting out on my time spent in Air Missions Hind, which has now become a weekend task for me, having not gotten around to it during the week. And then also be right back here next Thursday night for our next episode of E2KGn30, the fastest gaming news show in town, where we come very, very, very close to getting you in and out in 30 minutes and totally briefed up on the week's major breaking news story in the games industry. That's going to do it for me and Osiris Prime. Thank you very much for joining in. We are out of here.